Hello and welcome to another episode of the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Connor Moreno, lead writer for UCLA Bruins on SI. And today we're a little bit slow on news. As you know, UCLA has, a few practices before they go ahead and travel to Las Vegas to take on UNLV this weekend. Yesterday we kind of talked about a little bit of the takeaways we had from UCLA's Week 1 loss to Utah. It was a brutal loss. Just talked about how tackling was kind of a main pain point for UCLA. Defensively, honestly, I think the entirety of the defense kind of looked like it kind of struggled against Utah, but we also may have been kind of going into the matchup underrating just how good Utah is this year. As we know, and it's going to play a little bit into what we're going to talk about today, the updated AP Top 25 poll came out, and Utah climbed all the way up to number 25. I think they were receiving votes in the preseason, but they officially, after Week 1, got into the top 25 at number 25. So today I thought we would take that updated AP top 25 and talk about which of UCLA's opponents kind of made the top 25. There are definitely two opponents that shot up into the top 25 and kind of which are receiving votes, and there's also one that plays into this kind of week that we're going to talk about. So yeah, without further ado, I say let's get right into it. Let me pull up the list. All right, so yeah, we have pretty much, I think half of UCLA's remaining schedule is going to be on this list. Half of them, 6 or 5 of them aren't actually on, like all of them aren't on the top 25, but some were receiving votes, so they were worth a mention. And up first, number 1, Ohio State. They shot up 2 spots into the number 1 spot. The Bruins won't have to see the Buckeyes until kind of mid-November, but Ohio State did make its mark this first week by taking down who once was the number 1 team in the nation in Texas. Texas fell all the way, I think, to 7. I don't know if I have that right, but they did fall quite a bit after the loss. And Ohio State went ahead and made their way to the top spot. The defending national champs made their way back to the top spot in the nation. And just kind of previewing that matchup a little bit. I know it's a ways away. It's about 2 months away from where we are right now. It comes in the middle of what I think is UCLA's kind of roughest stretch of the season. And we'll talk about it a little bit more once we get to the third person on this list, or the third team on this list, I should say. But yeah, Ohio State up to number 1. They are on UCLA's schedule this season. And after these rankings came out, you kind of look at UCLA's schedule a little bit more daunting than you did maybe going into it. I know I definitely wrote about maybe the schedule kind of being a little bit overrated, but as we're going to see, it's really not. Like, UCLA has a really tough and daunting schedule ahead, because right after number 1, at number 2 in the nation is still Penn State. They had no change. They were number 2 going into it. Penn State, they hosted Nevada to open the season. They handled business, beat them by a ton, and they remain at the number 2 spot. The Bruins take on Penn State in the Rose Bowl in Week 6. That is just, I think, 3 more games ahead. And so, just given just how good Penn State will remain the entire season, I do think that UCLA's 3-game stretch before them, where they take on UNLV this coming week, they take on New Mexico the week after that, and then Northwestern the week after that, I do think, it is important that the Bruins handle business against each of these 3 teams, which I think they are definitely going to be favored against. UNLV is the better team of these 3 teams, and UCLA is already favored by 2 points against them. So this 3-game stretch before they take on Penn State is going to be absolutely crucial to kind of maintaining the, I guess, I don't want to say integrity, but like maintaining hope for the season, because as we chronicled it, and I know I definitely talked about it going into the season, I did think that UCLA could start 4-0. Obviously, I completely overrated them, and I was completely wrong about that. But 3-1 is still a really good start, because you start 3-1, and then you take on Penn State. That's 3-2. After Penn State, you have Michigan State and Maryland, two teams going into the season. UCLA was projected to be better than. I mean, by the time we get into this that point in the season, which is like week 7, week 8, you hope that UCLA has their identity formed and they can actually compete with Michigan State and Maryland. Right now, it's not looking like they are, but by the time that comes along, when you've strung together a few wins, hopefully in the next 3 games, you could potentially still start the season 5-2, which is a really good jump start from last season where they started 1-5. If you're 5-2, you have 5 more opponents and 5 more chances to get just 1 win. But as you'll see right now when we get into this next team, that 1 more win after you potentially get 5 in your first 7 is going to be pretty difficult, because at number 23 we have Indiana, and they're actually down 3 spots. They came into the season ranked 20th behind Fernando Mendoza. So the Hoosiers, they moved down 3 spots after getting a 27-14 win against Old Dominion. And the reason that I kind of marked Indiana as a big talking point is because the Indiana game starts that kind of brutal stretch in the schedule that I thought I think they're the official start to that brutal stretch in the schedule, where you have Indiana, and then you have right after Nebraska, and then right after that Ohio State, and then Washington, and then USC to close out the season, which makes these next 3 games all the more critical, because if you go 5-2 into that Indiana game, I mean, when's your next win gonna come? Starting on that Indiana game. I mean, maybe if you've built up some momentum, you could potentially upset Indiana. I doubt that. They look like a really good team. So your next 2, toss-up games, I should say in quotations, toss-up games are Nebraska and Washington, and that's about it. And Nebraska's looking like a really good team. Washington, is probably going to be the more likely 6th win of the season. Especially, going into the season, I really thought that this point of the season, UCLA would be vying for 7 or 8 wins. But now it's looking like, especially just how we saw them and just how much of a problem the defense is going to be, now it's looking like at that time in the season, UCLA might be vying for 6 wins or even just to maintain bowl eligibility. So it's going to be definitely difficult to see. Indiana, number 23. Obviously, we talked about how Utah moved into 25, but the Bruins have already played against them, which brings us to the others receiving votes category, and there are 4 teams that actually received 4 UCLA opponents, I should say, that received votes to get into the top 25. One of them was USC with 64 votes. That puts them as the 29th ranked team in the nation. They absolutely handled Missouri State 73-13 to open the season. Not sure how much you want to read into that, but it does definitely look like USC is well on their way to becoming a top 25 team if they can keep that momentum going in. And then we have Nebraska, 35. They received 13 votes. That puts them at 35th in the nation behind Dylan Raiola. They narrowly defeated Cincinnati to open the season 20-17, and their game against UCLA later in the season was originally deemed a toss-up game. But if Nebraska can continue to be as good as they are, the Bruins might be underdogs going into that game. And lastly, interestingly enough, UNLV, they're 2-0. They received 4 votes, which puts them at 39th in the nation. I don't know how much I buy this. Their week 0 win against Idaho State, FCS school at that, kind of dissuaded people, and then they turned around and beat Sam Houston 38-21. So, maybe, 2-0 start, Dan Mullen, maybe they're worthy of receiving the votes, but the odds makers do have them as underdogs against the Bruins, so it's going to be a very important game. This week 2 game is going to be very important to kind of the trajectory of UCLA's season going forward. So that's all we had for UCLA's opponents that are in the top 25. And tomorrow, I think we're gonna maybe talk about a little bit of a preview. It's gonna be a few days out from the game, or maybe we'll talk about just some notes from practice that we've seen this week and how they're recovering from the Utah loss. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. We'll see you tomorrow.